Hello and welcome to Politics Hub on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshakin. Joining me today is Mr. Dele Farotimi. He is a lawyer, a seasoned political activist, a Obida Tea campaign spokesperson, Southwest. Hello, Mr. Dele Farotimi.
Good afternoon, madam.
Yes, thank you for
Pleasure.
joining us. And it's just few days to the 2023 general elections. And of course, a lot of people are talking about it. What's your take on these? And what are your fears about the upcoming general election?
Well, the pivotal nature of the election has meant that it's caught the attention of Nigerians in a way that elections have not arrested their attention for a while. The last time I saw this much interest in any election would probably be in 1993. But then that would be a little too far back for some people. So maybe I should just refer to the fraudulent change that was sold to the Nigerian people in 2014, 2015. So that was the last time we had this much interest by the people. So that on its own is something. When you consider that in 2019, you had only 27 million plus voting in the general election, where you had a voting strength of about 89, or was it 99 or 91 million? I'm not sure now, but I know that only about a third voted in 2019. So the difference is that this time around, the people are engaged. They see that elections have consequences, and they are interested in getting involved in the process because Buhari has taught everybody. When it now comes to the subject of fears, frankly speaking, other than the institutional fears that one would have concerning Nigeria and the lack of democracy, even though we continue to speak of a democracy, is only INEC really. INEC particularly gives me cause to worry. But INEC officials are also Nigerians, and we can only hope that the experiences of the last 7.5 years should have shown sufficiently to everyone that no matter how much you might even make in selling out your country, you'll still live here. Even when your children travel abroad, you buy your homes abroad. God has made it so that until they come back to Nigeria, they are not okay. So they'll still come here. So we all have a common stake in making Nigeria work. So the fear I have is with INEC. All those institutional bodies, INEC, the police, the army, I worry about them. But I am trusting that our immediate past experience should suffice to teach them that we should all strive to just do the right thing this time around.
You spoke about INEC now. INEC, that's just a few days ago, INEC said the 2023 election might be cancelled or postponed due to the insecurities. But of course, they've come back to say, they are ready. But looking at it holistically, do you think they are ready? Because some of their properties have been attacked recently in different parts of Nigeria.
One of the things that have bound Nigeria together for as long as it's been held together are the illusions and lies that we tell ourselves so that we might not confront the truth of our existence. And these illusions and lies are the reasons why INEC would say what it has said, recant, and then we would also be treating it as though it were to be a question that requires debate. Number one, forget INEC or the electoral process. Is there really any Nigerian in any part of Nigeria that feels sufficiently safe to participate in any activity? The answer is no. People who can't go to the farm, how do they vote? People who cannot travel between cities, how do they campaign? So the insecurity is already part and parcel of our everyday existence as a people. But the unfortunate reality again is that this is so because our government, the current regime in power in Nigeria, has enabled it, condoned it, and in some cases promoted the insecurity. The chief insurgent leader in Nigeria today is the president of Nigeria. I would not want to spend too much time discussing this beyond to point out the fact that Commodore Laomi is in the public space, confirming that indeed their Boko Haram members sat in the government of Nigeria. He's an intelligence officer. He said so on national TV. Nobody has denied it. The man is walking free. Malami himself, the Attorney General of the Federation, he was very specific in saying, confirming after much pressure, that indeed he had received a list comprising of almost 300 or over 300 names of terrorism sponsors in Nigeria from the UAE. Their co-accused who are arrested in the UAE, they are in prison there. The ones in Nigeria are walking free. They find it easy to trace Nnamdi Kanu. It's always very easy to find Sunday Igboho. But nobody knows the whereabouts of all the terrorists killing people up and down the length and breadth of Nigeria. We are owing humongous debts because of some crazy railway lines that we can't even use because the terrorists have taken over control of the rail lines. So when you see all of these, and then we're now talking about security because of election, we all have to take on a degree of self-delusion before we will believe that we have sufficient security to function like human beings. But since we are in the game of pretense, we are all pretending that we can, maybe the government who enables the terrorists and the bandits, the ones that they have condoned because they are speaking this, all these things that they have allowed to take place, maybe they have an arrangement with these people that during this period of election, you will down tools, and when we are done with election, you can start again. I don't understand how. So it takes some level of self-delusion before we would even have presumed to believe that we can have election or any same thing in an environment where people can go to school feeling safe, where they kidnap children wholesale. And we are now talking about election where, see, we would have election. We've always had election. The hope is that this time around, perhaps the will of the people, if it's allowed to be expressed, might count. But as I have said, INEC and all of us, including you, we are all fooling ourselves if we think we have sufficient security to do anything human in our space.
Mm-hmm. Apart from that, let's talk about PVC. Now, some people have raised alarm over deliberate denial of PVC based on ethnic or partisan considerations. What are your thoughts on this?
I think we should be careful not to generalize or to perpetuate myths. And I say this because I have heard of cases where people went into INEC offices and got their PVCs in record time. I've also seen cases where INEC officials colluded with APC officers here in Lagos State to prevent people of a particular origin from getting their PVC. There are several video evidences online that there was a councillor one in Surulere the other day. I've seen quite a number of these videos. So yes, there have been pockets of these cases being reported, but we mustn't also forget that there have also been widespread reports of successful transfer of PVCs to their owners. I've read several reports of people sharing their testimonies of how they got their own PVCs and how quickly these were done. So I think we should, it's not a perfect situation. It could be much better than it is. There appears to be too much readiness for compromise by INEC officials, but I'm not seeing a concerted effort at disenfranchisement. If anything, I am merely seeing the typical Nigerian propensity to abuse whatever powers we are given, even as INEC officials. That's what I'm saying, not a concerted, deliberate effort. Yes, people are concerting it, but not an INEC coordinated thing. It's an individual failure, as I see it.
Just few days to the election. So how can you describe the chances of Peter Obi in this upcoming election?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. But we do have polling agencies, all sorts of organizations, posters, and each and every one of the polls that has come out in the last 6 months has been very clear as to the direction of this election. We are confident that this election is not really about, it's not just about the candidates. It's about the readiness of the Nigerian to determine the direction they want to see their country take. So I have no reason to doubt that Peter Obi will win, and he will win resoundingly on the first ballot too. Every poll that we have seen suggests that that is the case, and I trust that the Nigerian people will do the right thing. The choices are too clear. It's too clear. The choice is between light and day. We can't travel those directions any longer. We've traveled that ruinous direction for too long. We need to do something different.
Are you saying Labour Party and Peter Obi supporters are not, they are not afraid of the opposition party?
Let me put it this way. If we are truly a democracy, which I have always maintained that we are not, if we are truly citizens, which I have equally always maintained that we are not, then our will must count. And it is in finding the capacity to express our will that we have lost the capacity to be afraid of these behemoths of the PDAPC, as they themselves have taken to calling themselves. Is one family. That PDAPC is one family. You know the letter Y. If you look at the letter Y, it starts with two branches merging into one. The APC is the merger of the PDP and the ACN, or the AC. You have the thinking thieves of the Action Congress coming together with the unthinking thieves of the PDP. And then you have the rump of the CPC donating itself as the glue. But what has kept them together has torn them apart. It's just greed, stealing and more stealing, no vision. And they've stolen so much that all they have left now is to keep fighting themselves. So we are not worried about them. If anything, if you are watching the space, you see that they are the ones who are worried about the Labour Party. Because Peter Obi was the one they didn't expect. He was the one nobody expected to see. He was not a factor. But he's not still the factor. It is the people who are the factor. The people are the factor here. It is the people who are the factor. When the people assert their powers, this ends. And I believe we are at that end of this road. We're going in a new direction.
All right, former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, endorsed Peter Obi. But what's your take on this?
You see, it pains me every time I get asked this question, because I do have, it's usually best when you are being asked to analyze something, not to have a personal opinion. My personal opinion of General Obasanjo must be clear. I don't have anything favorable or nice to say about his person. So I am going to ask that you please allow me to confine myself to the 6-page letter that he wrote, so that we just address the letter and the reactions and responses to that letter. Now, General Obasanjo wrote a 6-page letter, and he dedicated 3 paragraphs of that 6-page letter, which must have at least, I imagine that 6-page letter would have close to about 60 paragraphs. At least, let me be conservative. It would have about 50 paragraphs. So Obasanjo dedicated 3 paragraphs wherein he endorsed the candidacy of Peter Obi. But everybody have ignored every other paragraph of that letter and focused exclusively on the controversy that they want to have because of the person of General Obasanjo. You must understand that the truth might be devalued in the mouth of a person devoid of integrity, but it is not destroyed. No matter how much you might dislike General Obasanjo, you have to deal with the facts as contained in his letter. The letter is a rehash of how we got to where we are. It is a statement of the account of the Nigerian state, and it is being written by an active participant in its ruination, because they have ruined this country. Out of the 62 plus years of Nigeria's existence, General Obasanjo ruined it for at least 11 years. So let's be clear that when such a man now gives an account, and he goes as far as to admit to his own part in the ruination of that country, he then goes further to say, look, this is where we are, and if we don't do something drastic, this country will be destroyed. Now there is an election coming, and we are all going to have to decide how we want to come out of this mess. These are my own criteria for choosing the president. He then went further to then reduce it to the point of the endorsement. So now, as much as I have had occasion to disagree with Chief Obasanjo on practically everything in my lifetime, and he has occupied my lifetime, I've known of him since I was in Aberdeen College in UI, 1977, or Ali must go, Aberdeen Primary School. When I inhaled the tear gas, I knew of him and I never forgot him, and I have never forgiven him. But for the first time in my life, I agree with the man. I read the letter, forget the 3 paragraphs. But now that he has now given his opinion, the same people who have been going cap in hand, prostrating in Ota and Abeokuta, saying Baba Kepe, all of a sudden Obasanjo's endorsement is worthless. That's their opinion. Whether it's worthless, it's worthful, as long as the old man gets up in his bed that morning, may God spare all of our lives, and he casts a singular vote for Peter Obi, his duty is done in my own case. His vote is not more important than mine or yours or that of Tajuddin. For those whose Obasanjo opinion matters, they will care to vote on the basis of his endorsement. I didn't require his endorsement, and neither do a lot of Nigerians who are capable of saying, without being told, that this election is an unusual one, and it is one that will decide and determine the fate of the Nigerian state. So yes, I agree completely with Chief Obasanjo, or shall I say General Obasanjo, who said he has earned all of his title. Whatever name you call him, at the end of the day, he has had his say. The Nigerian people will have their way. The important thing is that let the will of the Nigerian people be reflected in the elections. Obasanjo is one man. His influence will be on those who admire him as a person, but anyone can deduce their own truth from our reality, and that's the basis of my own support for Peter Obi and those of a lot of others too.
Do you think the Beavers reflect the will of the people?
Let me say this to you. Like I said, we have found ourselves in a unique situation. We are the beneficiaries of a quarrel amongst thieves. When the PDAPC started out as one family before they became 2 families, when it was only one family, a sub-branch was holding one part of Nigeria, that's Lagos and whatever other places the KBSU of Bodilon could grasp. But when they now got to the point where it became a mutually assured thing, 2 equally matched behemoths. So they needed to be sure that neither was going to be cheating the other. So they evolved the new Electoral Act. Buhari wanted to make sure that the new Electoral Act will not prevent him from rigging the 2019 election. So they did not pass it until after the 2019 election. So now you have 2 equally matched rogues believing that they will be facing off against each other. They now crafted together an electoral system that was designed to prevent the thief from gaining the vote. They never factored in the emergence of the second force, which some of you prefer to call the third force, which is the Peter Obi movement. Nobody factored that into the calculation. The thinking was always that we were going to have a face-off between two horsemen of the apocalypse, each representing PDP, the other APC. Now, with a Peter Obi in there, you have a situation where, whether they like it or not, they have crafted a process that is designed to checkmate fraud. But this is why I kept saying that INEC is the important umpire here. If INEC decides to be honorable, we would have free and fair election. But Beavers is not a magic bullet if the people operating Beavers have decided that they will not be honorable. So it is INEC that we all need to look to. Everything about the current process enshrined in the Electoral Act has dealt with the usual frauds, because it was the thieves that were writing the law. They wrote the law knowing all the loopholes. The people writing the law know how they have been rigging it for the last 20 years. So this one was just meant to be, when you ask a cook to write the security system, that's what has happened with their Beavers and electoral law. So it is up to INEC and we as electorates to ensure that they do the right thing.
All right, in government, continuity is key. What do you think these governments have done well that you expect Peter Obi to continue?
My sister, I am told that snake venom is a treatment for cancer, and they also use it as some sort of painkiller in some medicine. But I will hesitate to recommend snake bite to anybody. We are not where we are because we have had a paucity of bad policies. There have been good policies in Nigeria over the last 60 years. It's been essentially a failure of leadership and a bad system that had doubled us. So I'm not going to say that there wouldn't be one or two good that might be gleaned, even though it was not done. Because if the intention was not to do good, if a design is put together essentially to either to defraud or to just to, without any intention of execution, sometimes you find design flaws because the intentions were not honorable. So I would say that, yes, I'm sure the incoming government would, at least they've been upfront in telling us that there are 7 trillion in debt to inherit. At least they've told us that what Emefiele and his chasers have done and what they are doing, we don't know yet. So we will really not have a full picture. If they've told us 77 trillion, it might be safer to assume 100. So I'm sure the incoming government would have a lot to deal with. I pray and I hope that it is Peter Obi, because I know that he already has a program anticipating and presuming certain doomsday scenario, because everything suggests that the country has been destroyed already. But other than that, I don't see anything about Buhari to recommend him to anybody. He's not a model of good governance for anyone to follow. He's an unmitigated disaster.
On your official Twitter page, you said, and I quote, Obi's candidacy rests on the slender wings of hope, and if that, a revolution awaits. What do you mean by revolution awaits?
Well, I have been in the public space for some years now, making clear that Nigeria requires nothing less than a revolution if it might be saved from itself. And then sometime last year, either December 2021 or January 2022, I started a 5-part lecture series that I titled Your PVC or Your Gun. What is a revolution? A revolution is a turnaround. it represents a turnaround. It means that you recognize that where you are going is not right, it's not sustainable, and you need to turn around. It comes from the old French word revolver, which also comes from the Latin root revolve. What he's saying is that if you're traveling in a direction and you realize the unsustainability of that direction, you need to turn. Now, because of successive military bandits who have ruled all over Africa and have appropriated the word revolution to justify and excuse their crimes against the state, we have demonized the word revolution as meaning something violent. This has always been the assumption when you use the word revolution in Africa. But I am using it in the sense of an urgent need for a radical turn. Now, when I say that the Obi candidacy rests on the slender wings of hope, the fragility of hope is that when it is substantial, such as the one that we are seeing right now, where the people have made clear that they are looking for change, and where the people have engaged with the system in their search for change, when this happens, and the system now denies the demand for change, it usually provokes anger. Now, the difference between anarchy and revolution is the presence of a plan for the day after the anarchy begins. I have been in the public space and I have argued strenuously that I do not believe that Nigeria can change if you do not change its governance systems. The current governance systems are what have been placed on the table in this election. A man is telling you, I want to move Nigeria from consumption to production, from consumption to production. It will take a revolutionary process to move a country that is structured to consume to begin to produce. So what Obi is offering is an electoral revolution, a different way of doing things. Now, I am of the firm opinion that the Nigerian state has a choice. The ruiners of Nigeria has a choice. They are either going to listen to the voices of reason expressed in the hope and aspiration of the people by their votes, or the people will come out on the street just as they had seen when it was NSAS, and then they turned the state's gun on the citizen. But the difference between NSAS and what might follow, if anybody presumes to steal the vote in this case, is that at NSAS, you were dealing with pockets of peaceful protest. It was the Nigerian state that brought the violence. NSAS was a peaceful protest everywhere, and we have more than sufficient video evidence of the states unleashing violence on the citizens. In Abuja, you saw security officers in Prado jeeps ferrying thugs all over Abuja. They are on video. We saw that. Those were not protesters organizing violence upon themselves. In Lagos, we saw the Lagos state government buses being used to convey thugs to attack people at Alausa. By the 20th of October, lights were being switched off at the toll gate, and the judicial panel of inquiry has conclusively found that there was a massacre. All members of that panel were selected by the state government. The state government went ahead to pay 100 million naira in cash donation, in cash compensation to those who are killed and injured. So why are we still talking about the criminality of the state? So when you now take all of this, you have to understand that by this time, you are not talking about 3 or 4 different places in Lagos. You are talking nationwide. You would have to deal with the anger and the disappointment. So at that point, the only thing that would be desirable for Nigeria would be a revolution, so that the anarchy that would have been unleashed by the willful seizure of the people's hope, if it is tailored, it becomes a revolution. If it is not tailored, it becomes anarchy. And anarchy is the one thing I don't want, and I don't think any Nigerian wants any of the sort. What we want is a change of the way we are going. But those who make peaceful change impossible. I'm not the one who said that. I think it's one American president who has more brains than me. He said those who make peaceful change impossible. Makes revolution, that is violent changes, inevitable. I believe that was actually John Kennedy's younger brother. Yeah, he was the one. RFK. So my dear sister, it is not me that is looking for anything. I've just shown you clearly. It is the people's desire for change that might collide with the recalcitrance of the ruiners of Nigeria, who might not recognize that it is time to take a bow and just leave gracefully.
Some people believe there might be a runoff. Do you think there might be a runoff?
There will be no runoff. All that runoff, if you listen to all the projections talking runoff, you see that it is based on two assumptions. The first assumption is that the number of undecided voters are actually as large as the poll would suggest. But because I live in Lagos and I know how real the intimidation is, I know as the fact that the bulk of those who are claiming to be undecided are actually Obi voters. They are afraid to identify themselves because of the intimidation. Imagine a bus driver in Lagos confessing to be an Obi supporter, or a market store owner in Lagos, or a civil servant in Lagos. None of these ones will be able to own up to their sympathies for Peter Obi. They will be obliged to say, oh, we haven't decided. Or some of them might even lie and say, Jaga all the way, when they know they will not be voting for the man. So, frankly, I don't think the undecided voters are as many as have been said. That's one. The second thing is that if you look at all the permutations predicting runoff, each one of them, none of them has Peter Obi out of the two that are supposed to be facing off. They are either saying Peter Obi would have a runoff against Atiku, or they will say Peter Obi would have a runoff against Emiloka. But really, these are based on too many assumptions, assuming that they are just playing safe, so that in case they have underestimated or underpulled the supporters of either of these two behemoths in their areas of strength, if they have made that error, so they have allowed room, but we don't believe that there will be any runoff. We're convinced that our candidate will win on the first ballot. That's our firm projection. Even from our own internal pollings, we believe we'll win on the first ballot.
All right. Lastly, you've talked about the South and the East. How will you describe Peter Obi and Labour Party strength in the North?
See, the one thing that we should all be grateful to Buhari for is that he has sufficiently helped Nigerians to see the commonalities of our afflictions. He then also raised hubris to a level where the people who are the victims of the ruiners have come to understand that they are better united against those who are not divided in fighting them. The fact that the National Assembly has more money allocated to it than health and education has shown the people that the rulers are united against them. So this business of north, south, east, west, we've seen, particularly again helped by the Ahmed Dati presence on the ticket. The man is not an unknown quantity in Kaduna and Kano and Abuja, where he's been long established as a private businessman who made a success of his businesses, who has also employed a lot of people, shown a lot of help to local communities there, has two universities, nobody has ever caught a whiff of dirty money around him. And then you must also understand that when we are talking about the North, there's this illusion of a monolithic north. But Buhari has done a fantastic job of telling the people of Benue that they are not part of his own north. He has told the people of Taraba that they are not part of his own north. He has told the people to state that they are not part of his own, one of his own class or ethnicity. He's told everybody. So in this moment, in this season, we're suddenly realizing that actually the North is just as fragmented in terms of ethno-religious differences that every other part of Nigeria. So if we are going to ever forge a common front, it will be because we found common purpose. So Peter Obi is not talking to anybody on account of their religion or account of their ethnicity or on account of anything beyond the fact of their being Nigerian. Whether they like it or not, if nothing else, one thing unites all of us. We are all stuck in this space, and if it collapses on top of all of our heads. So that common need for survival, I believe, has helped all of us to realize the need that we must look beyond this north-south divide. I'm not suggesting that it would have taken root to an extent. But I believe that we've done sufficient work. The conditions were also pretty favorable because of the season. And we believe that we'll do reasonably well in the northern part of Nigeria. In any case, no candidate is going to gain the presidency without the national spread. So if we are looking at our internal figures and we are confident, it's because we know that we will do well. There are even some states that we know as a fact that Peter Obi would win in what you would ordinarily refer to as the north. So there is no north, south, east, west here this time around. It's we, all of us.
All right. Good luck with the campaign and also the elections.
Thank you very much, madam.
Yes.
God bless.
Yes, and
have a happy New Year.
Yes, and you too. And that's Mr. Dele Farotimi, a lawyer, a seasoned political activist, Obidati campaign spokesperson, Southwest. And that's where we have to draw the curtain today. My name is Damlola Ogushaki. It's bye from me on Politics Hub.